Mini emergency on the polling front. Let's go. The holidays, back to the brick force, or brick house G-force. Otherwise, I can't get up and down the damn ladder, folks, you know? Oh boy, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Don't forget to like the videos if you like them and share them far and wide. A couple of things we're going to do today. One, first and foremost, this is an old edition. This is the book we'll be doing for book club. All right, pay attention to the title, not the edition. I got to check and see whether or not I absolutely need to get myself a new edition. I always get one or two for people when we do these book clubs. So I'll check it out when I do, when I get them as gifts. But it's called Nations and Identities. Nations and Identities. And it's actually by Vincent Pecora. It's edited by Vincent Pecora. It's a plethora of works about nationalism in the academic sense. All right. A lot of people had said, why don't we read Imagine Communities by Benedict Anderson? And we should. And I absolutely plan to do that. But we need kind of like an introduction to the concept of nationalism and how it's discussed in an academic forum. Okay. All right. Not to sound all cheesy and like Ivory Tower like, but that's just that you know how we do it over at book club. All right. It's like the college that you should have wasted your money on to send your kids to. All right. Also, we're going to talk about the impact of the Hispanic vote on the election. One take from a left-wing point of view, which I find to be very interesting, but of course. And the Christmas poll. Don't forget about that, which is up now. We'll get into all of that. But of course, the number one thing everyone's talking about right now is that Hunter Biden got a pardon from his father. We're going to poll this in the Christmas poll. I know it's kind of weird, but we're going to do the Christmas poll first. And then we will do a registered voter screen. And probably even, it's a little early to do likely. It's not that it really matters, but we'll look at their vote histories anyway, and we'll be able to tell that, or at least we'll be able to tell, what the difference between propensities. But we'll likely do just a register voter, and it'll go Christmas poll. Then it will go into the voter screen. Then it will go into things like transition approval and a registered voter economic confidence index, which we absolutely need at this point. I was thinking of starting this weekend, but there was other projects we were doing, and people just don't want to be bothered the weekend of Thanksgiving, folks. They really didn't. After now, we're going into the holidays. We have a small break in between Thanksgiving and Christmas where participation rates will be much higher. All right. So we're going to try to take advantage of that. And it's up. The campaign's up on Big Data Poll. If you guys want to check it out, the link's in the description. You'll see it. It says Christmas poll, and there's a banner for the Christmas poll. But after the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index, then we will get into polling things of more political nature, but we have to leave the Christmas poll untainted from the political nature of it. So the order in which we're going to do it's going to be a little bit weird, and we'll go over it and show you, especially locals and company. We'll show you the questionnaire and how it's going to roll. We have to obviously see how people feel about this. Joe Biden pardoned Hunter Biden, as I think anyone who watches this show expected to happen. Did anybody seriously believe the media or believe the White House? I had made multiple comments myself, and I had said, if I was Joe Biden, I would probably give Donald Trump a call and say, how could I help? Because I would trust Donald Trump more with the future of my child than I would with Kamala Harris, who is a politically vindictive person about the only big decisions Kamala Harris ever made in her political career, were vindictive power plays, and they were not, or just vindictive or power plays separately that were doing the bidding of her donors, like Planned Parenthood, the archdiocese, who didn't want a bunch of touchy-feely priests prosecuted for touching little boys that she let go, which never got discussed during the campaign. All stuff like that. It's the only big decisions, Kamala Harris ever made. This one is very hard to defend. And I'm going to play the first clip, which is just jumping jacks, to be able to defend this. However, I actually think, I'm curious what Americans will think of this, because I'm a father. I'd like to think I wouldn't use my power to protect my son if it was the wrong thing to do morally, but would I? Can I seriously sit here and say that? But then again, I would never have used my son as a bad boy for me. Because let's really break this down. Let's just really be real for a second. Joe Biden is not pardoning his son only to protect his son. Joe Biden is pardoning his son to protect his son, his brother, and his own, his own skin. If the incoming Trump administration, let's say Kash Patel, wants to crawl up Hunter's orifice with a microscope and then lean on him, well, he could spill the beans on Uncle Jim and the big guy himself, Daddy Biden. And that, because of what they did to their own political opponent, when they had their predecessor, how did they treat him? Unlike the case with Donald Trump, these are real crimes. So since the Democrats already set the precedent, it's not hard for a Kash Patel or a Pam Bondi to bring the hammer down on a former president now. Will they do that? I don't know. I'm just saying, think about it from Joe Biden's perspective. But don't give him too much credit, because, of course, this is not just to protect his son. This is to protect his own skin. The guy, even before he became president, was a well-known bribe taker. And I don't know what you call what he got from the Chinese and his family got from the Chinese. For those of you who may be as knowledgeable about how the Chinese do business as I am, they don't bribe you personally. They enrich your family. And that's their bribe to you. What happened with Joe Biden is textbook Chinese bribery. And he was the president of the United States. We've already known that he has the capacity to lean on people, withhold things like foreign aid and funding to get what he wants, especially if it has to do with his children. Ukraine. Right. So, look, CNN is doing mental gymnastics, attempting to defend this thing. I'm going to show you why in a second. It's such a problem for the media to defend this. But here's Scott Jennings, who is obviously a Trump surrogate. But here's Scott Jennings and how he dealt with this. Some of these videos you all have maybe seen by now, but I think it's important to go in this order and recap it. So here we go. Let's go with old Scott first.
Listen, you guys can spend all day long trying to spin this, that this is Donald Trump's fault, that this is somehow caused by Donald Trump. Oh, he's appointing the wrong people. Oh, he did it. Oh, this is the worst possible thing a president could possibly do to his party and to the country, to sit for a year and say, I will not do this. I will not do this. The rule of law is sacred. We have to respect the justice system. Juries, we have to respect juries. We have to respect the guardrails and the norms of our democracy. These people are liars. Inflation, it's transitory. Afghanistan, it's a success. The border is secure. Robert Hur is a liar. The videos are cheap fakes. Biden has a cold. He'll never drop out. Oh, I'll never pardon Hunter. It's all a lie. It is all a grift. Every American, except the most partisan, brain-rotted people, are going to be outraged by this today. He is going to leave off. You think 38, 39% job approval is bad? Just you wait. Just you wait. He's disgraced. Disgraced today. Outrageous.
You don't need to But Scott, you don't need to hurl names and.
Before we go in the victimhood rebuttal, because she can't actually defend herself against what Scott just said, I want to go over something else Scott said, which is that even though Americans are likely to be understanding on this one, even if we find surprisingly high numbers of people who like don't blame the president for doing this, it is going to hit his job approval. I think this is without question going to be reflected in a declining job approval. I could be wrong. I'm not often. Everyone's wrong sometimes. I'm not often. But man, I have already heard it from a bunch of normies. It's 2:15 Eastern time. And it's been nothing but, oh my God, Richard, because they know what I do. Richard, oh my God, this guy really pardoned his crook son, like, I can't believe you do this on the way out of office. This is such a disgrace. And then others pointing out what you're going to hear in a second, which is that they went on and on about how the rule of law matters. Nobody's above the law. I won't pardon my son. You're going to hear Joe Biden say that himself. The media parroted it like state-run media. Unbelievable hypocrisy here today. That's the big point. And of course, she's going to play the victim over it because she really can't do anything else but play the victim. And people are over it, man. People are really over it. Let's get real. So, going with what Scott said as well, real quick, before we get started and rolling the rest of this tape. This is the perfect ending to an already disgraced legacy. They allowed, should I keep this until after the video or should I talk about this now? They took an old man who was senile off the bench after unleashing a deadly pandemic on the world to get rid of Donald Trump because they didn't believe Bernie could beat him. They rigged a primary again, sold off all sorts of positions like the Secretary of Transportation to somebody like Pete Buttigieg, has absolutely no experience in anything but being a very bad mayor of a very small town, a very small city. What else? I mean, we can go through the guy's cabinet. Is that really necessary? They did all of this. And here we are now. At the end of all of this deception, he's not senile. He's not senile. At the end of all of this deception, folks, we come to the finality of this administration, and the guy pardons his son. It was already an awful legacy. He's not the first president, but he's certainly the first president to fabricate crimes to prosecute his political opponent. He had more political prisoners behind bars than Vladimir Putin did at any given time. What else? I mean, we could just go on and on and on here. It just goes on. It's so much. It's almost hard to keep track of. And now we come to the end of it. It's almost the perfect. It really is the perfect ending, isn't it? I would never pardon my son. He will never do this. I mean, wait. But let's let her finish her victim statement.
Could say people like me are brain rotted. Come on,
people like
beyond
me,
the pale,
brain rotted. Beyond the pale, Scott.
I agree. We can
freaking outrage stuff is just so tiring.
You don't have to defend it. You don't have to die on this hill. You can say this is wrong because everybody knows that it is. It's wrong. Are you fine with the lying? Are you fine with him sitting before the election all year and lying to the American people? Are you fine with the lying about it?
She's fine with it.
I don't think that he was lying. I think he made
Don't call me a liar, Scott. I'm a liar.
A decision after the fact and decided this was the right thing for him and for his family.
My God.
Period. Full stop.
Period. Full stop. Period. Full stop. I need psychotherapy. Period. Full stop. I need psychotherapy. These people are insane. Can we just call this what it is? These people are insane. This is the problem with the liberal mind in general, even as not somebody who's talking at all as a partisan, but somebody who studies public opinion. You can't just make up your own new reality every day. There has got to be absolutes in life. You cannot just make up a new standard every day. That's beyond hypocrisy. That's delusional. I don't think he was lying. Bro. Come on, chat. Come on. I'm reading your comments right now. I mean, this is... It's delusion. I don't know. There's no better word to say. I just don't want to be like hyperbolic here. It's almost like an admitted delusion, too, which is even crazier. We could show the tape over and over and over and over. In fact, we're probably going to. But let's Scott respond.
The minute, Joe Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre, how many minutes of tape do we have of both of these people telling the American people this will not happen?
In fact, I have 9.
I mean, we could play it all morning. It's a lie, and it's a lie to benefit his own family, and that's all that it is. And everybody who went on TV and said, oh, look how he's the modern George Washington. He's drained every ounce of credibility from every surrogate. Yeah. If Karine Jean-Pierre had an ounce of self-respect, she'd get off the plane in Africa today where they're going so he can avoid the press and resign. He's drained all of her credibility, and everybody else who's defended this, it's draining for them forever.
I don't know what she's laughing at. I don't know what she's laughing at. They have a major credibility problem. The media, all of these like institutions of power, and the presidency itself. And now of course, that's going to stain individuals. What the hell is she laughing at? It's not funny. I would resign if you made me get up there day in and day out and tell the media, tell the White House press corps, the president would never do that. I would resign. The problem is, again, they lack dignity. They lack integrity. Other elements that are pretty important to character. And they allow themselves to be deluded. They're self-deluding. That is like, is that a word? I'm making it up right now if it is. Speaking of made up words, if you're going to, all you radio hosts out there, Laura caught something on Friday. If you're going to take my hot takes without citing me and pretending like you knew something was the case the whole time, whatever, dude. All of these people do this. It's so disingenuous. But if you're going to do it, don't you dare use words that I literally made up without citing me. You have never heard of the phrase, no prop voter, Sean Hannity. Never heard of it because it didn't exist until the People's Pundit said it. You have never heard of the phrase, Trump or bust voter, because I made it up to describe a group of people that I and only I studied. You didn't know shit. You didn't know you're from a hole in the ground, bruh. So you want to, act like people don't exist and take their hot takes and pretend that you have an original thought. Knock yourself out, broski. But don't you dare take my vocabulary too, because I'm obviously going to call you out on it. I personally don't listen. But Laura was in the car going somewhere and heard it and was like, oh my God, you got to hear this. Nah. Negative. Full stop. All right. Look, he said something there. He said, how many times do we have Joe Biden? How many times do we have Karine Jean-Pierre? Okay. What about the media? How many minutes of tape? What did he say? Well, in fact, and you probably saw some of this. We're not going to play this all right now. It's 2:24. I want to move on, but we'll play a little bit at a time in between breaks and stuff like that. This is almost 9 whole minutes of media shilling over this.
So a promise to put the law before family.
I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that. and I will not pardon him.
letting the world know that he will not wipe away the decision of 12 of his son's peers.
Was asked directly, and he has said he wouldn't pardon his son if he gets convicted.
Let's wait and see what happens if he loses.
Yeah, but he said it.
He's going to get pardoned by his dad. There's no question about that.
The president has ruled out pardoning his son.
Major commitment from the president, accepting the outcome of the trial and also pledging not to pardon his son.
So the challenge.
That woman is awful. Not only can I not stand listening to her, God forgive me. I can't stand looking at her. Her arrogance just bleeds through the camera. And she's one of those people you can tell, even if you don't know her, you can obviously tell that she's actually really stupid, but she thinks she's like super smart. I cannot stand people like that. I mean, no offense, ladies. I'm not just talking about women, but it's just even it looks worse on a woman, I think. Oh, you serve the People's Pundit's a misogynist? Oh, whatever. If that makes me a misogynist, I'm a misogynist. Whatever. Caitlyn. I'm talking about Caitlyn, Matt. She's the worst, man. Caitlyn is the worst. She most people, Odin's right. Most people on television are stupid. All right, cable news, network news, they're not smart people. They just think they're smart people. It's the worst, man. It's the worst. And then when you meet them in real life, you're like, oh my God, you really are just dumb, aren't you? You're like part stupid and part hack. And it makes for like the worst source of information a person could possibly get anything from. And they think they're smart. That's the worst. They think that they're smart. You're not. You're not. At all.
Challenge for him is really to continue to live up to his values when it was really personal, and he did that today.
It seems like a pretty normal, straightforward answer, but it takes new weight when we see what Trump is saying about the outcome of his trial. What we're hearing from other Republicans who say they don't accept the jury's verdict here in New York.
The contrast is profound. To sit there and say, well, I'm not going to intervene in the legal process, and I wouldn't pardon my son. One side, Democrats and Joe Biden protecting the justice system. And on the other, Republicans and Trump protecting Trump.
Our current president of the United States
Oh my God.
has so much respect for the law that he has said he would not pardon his son.
Just stop. We'll be back. We'll be back. Oh, loaded. We'll be back. All right, let's pay the bills real quick, shall we? And then actually, no, we got 2 minutes here. Okay. Here's the problem. Is there are hacks that won't even tolerate this. And every 4 years, and he kicked it into gear this time too, every 4 years, we have your usual suspects trying to hold down non-white communities, trying to keep them in the hive mind and on the new age plantation. You can count on them. You don't hear anything about them all year long. They're like nobodies. This guy wrote a book in between an election until this recent election. I bet you never heard about it. I bet you never did. And he took a tour. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody gave a damn. I'm not even sure, because I'm trying to think back. I'm not even sure I remember when Charlemagne the God was cool. I mean, I guess the Breakfast Club was influential at one point. I think that's fair to say it was. But I think that they made a strategic mistake here, especially him, and getting into just diving full head first into stupid things like supporting 80-year-old senile white guys over a guy who was helping your community in a way that no Democratic president, including the first black president, has done or did. And now you're sitting here just like, you missed the boat. And a decision like this is going to come down like, what reason do they have left to hang on to them? They're trying to salvage their own credibility. I don't know if he'll get it back doing this stuff, but it gets real bad when the only place you can find defenders of a decision is on like CNN, and the people are just, they're all in, folks. They're all in. The self-deluded. Charlemagne doesn't strike me as a self-deluded guy. He doesn't. I just think that he's, from that generation. He can't bite the hand that feeds, So now he's in a position where he can he can criticize and you know, especially Joe Biden, dump on Joe Biden and move on. He could criticize Joe Biden for this and still praise Kamala Harris as a great candidate. And kind of, weasel, it is the right word, weasel his way back into some modicum of credibility. Let's play this one.
Singled out because he broke the law. That's number one. He was singled out because he had an illegal gun and tax evasion charges, not because he was the president's son. And I honestly don't care. I just want Democrats to stop acting like they are on this moral high ground politically when they have shown us they're not, whether it's skipping the primary process when Biden stepped down and things like Biden pardoning his son. Stop.
Okay, stop. Where the hell were you, bro? Where the hell were you, bro? Where the hell were you with your moral high ground when the white 43-year-old who lives in North Carolina was the only one defending the votes of voters all through the Black Belt who renominated Joe Biden? Where the hell were you? White liberals didn't renominate Joe Biden. Look at the damn demographics. Look at the counties. Come on. Why didn't you defend them? Millions of them. There were over 14 million in total, nearly 15 million. A Democratic primary is over 40% non-white. Where the hell were you? Now you want to talk about moral high grounds and shit? Come on, man. Give me a break. You had your nose so far up her, you know what? Come on.
Acting like y'all the pure party and Republicans aren't. And it also shows me elected officials can do whatever they want as long as they have the political will and courage to do it.
Absolutely. But let me ask you a question. I know at first Hunter was only supposed to get, community service and probation. And then when that was supposed to happen, they pulled it off the table and they said that Republicans forced him to get charged. Is that true? And that's the reason why he was pardoned?
I'm not sure why he was necessarily pardoned.
Because at first, first he was supposed to only get probation, and then they pulled that back and then gave him time, right?
I don't know nothing.
Yeah.
Yo, come on, man. When you thought you were going to win, you were going to try to skate away on giving the guy a slap on his wrist. But now that you lost, things changed. Even Joe Biden, obviously hoping that his son would be in a position where the charging prosecutors and their bosses owed something to the party that he belongs to, and they were going to look out for him. Even though I thought, and I told you guys, I always thought that was actually the wrong move. But now they feel exposed. Look, I don't know. If I was Trump, I would have told Trump at the meeting, and I know a lot of you Trump supporters are not going to like this, but I'm just telling you, if I was Donald Trump at the transition meeting with Joe Biden, which was like a bro love fest, I would have told Joe Biden that the boy is safe under me, dude. Maybe your ass isn't, but the boy is safe under me. Because I don't know, man. Maybe my own experiences, I have a soft spot. It's very easy to take advantage of drug addicts, especially in active addiction. And then when they're not anymore, even when they're not, and you were in some position where you help them, I mean, they're going to feel like they have some kind of allegiance and owe you. And think about it now when you compound that's their father. It's not just their damn sponsor. I feel like Joe exploited that boy, and I don't think that would be the way I would go at it. Now, Jim, his brother, grown-ass man, knows full well what he was doing. That's a different story to me. That's a different story. But I don't know. I don't know what Trump said. I imagine we may find out. But that's what I would have told him. All right, let's play this before.
I thought he was facing 42 years in prison for illegal gun possession and tax charges.
Get my son out. What are you talking about?
Yes, he definitely. Because he lied on paperwork to get the gun, and he was addicted to drugs at the time.
Yep.
And you're supposed to be addicted to drugs when you get a gun, so that is how he quote unquote illegally obtained the gun. So there was that. But
Look, let me just say this too. We heard the stories about there's a rapper. I told you a story about someone I know personally. Similar charge, 4 years in federal prison. Just for the gun situation, nothing else. 4 years in federal prison. I mean, a famous rapper did over 4 years in federal prison. President's son's going to get a pardon. Tell you what, if you're still out there wondering, how did Trump get 35%, 34% of the black male vote in Texas? And how did Trump do this? Well, gee, I wonder. You must be clueless at this point. Straight up be just straight clueless. All right, let's pay the bills. When we come back, I got a great article I want to go over. All right, look, just because Trump won the election doesn't mean we are not in it for volatility. That is the word when we had our interview with Freedom Gold, which aired Friday on the way out of the program. We talked about this quite a bit. I think that real change is messy, and we're in a position where I don't think we can get out of the way of instability at some point. Depends on what it's going to look like and what shape it's going to take. But the bottom line is this is not an either or. If you're looking to learn about how to protect your wealth, or you just want to diversify your portfolio, boys and girls over at Freedom Gold are the way to go, guys. And the reason I like them, again, is they're really just about educating you, making sure that you are confident enough to make a decision when you so choose to do that. Also, when you give them a call, I didn't know. Actually, they're throwing you all in a prize pool. I thought it was just among people who opened accounts, but apparently, if you give them a buzz and you hear them out and it's an earnest conversation, you're all going in that prize pool. We had 2 new winners. It sounds like one of them I know. He's probably in here right now. He's a regular. The other one was. I heard very good things, that you were just like, you guys are very smart is the point, which is great. But look, all of these houses have minimum requirements. Most of the time it's like 50,000, 20,000, 10,000. Even Freedom Gold is 5, but not for you guys. They've reduced that all the way down to just 500, which is insane. And you still get free shipping and insurance on all orders. So you can go to the website, freedomgoldusa.com/rich, freedomgoldusa.com/rich, which is obviously for us, and learn about some of the other deals you may qualify for. You can also get a $500 credit on opening a new gold or silver IRA, which is another incredible deal. Or you can give them a call at the number that's just for us, 888-279-3592, 888-279-3592. Look, even though it's our number, it's always cool when you tell them the People's Pundit sent you. All right, one more time, 888-279-3592 or freedomgoldusa.com/rich. We're getting toward the end of the year, and this is when Laura and I always do 2 things. What can we do? What do we have left? What's still, like for the year, what I don't want to say extra because it's never extra, but charity and nest egg. Charity, nest egg, or really better, charity, wealth protection, or building, right? All right. I hate the names of. Okay, well, let me just show it to you. I hate it when somebody words something like how Latinos elected Trump, as if it was just one group. Political coalitions. Hello, Webster, please. Political coalitions are just that, coalitions. They are made up of different groups of people that together get somebody to the magic number. And in this case, there is no doubt that as our polling showed, as we picked up on, as we told you, Hispanics were going to vote for Donald Trump in much larger numbers than Hispanics vote for Republicans. And have in recent memory. It is true that before the Great Recession, they were more of a swing vote. But even George W. Bush, when they thought he got 44%, which he didn't, that was a very strong performance. The Republicans win Hispanics. Trump has done better than Bush. And I actually think if they're worth a damn, the voter validated surveys, there's one already, but the voter validated surveys that will trickle out over the course of the next couple of months are going to show that he actually did better than we thought. And why am I saying this? We've gone over some of it, but look, Texas was just ridiculous. Florida, ridiculous. The Central Valley in California, where Republicans are running 5 to 7 points behind him with them, ridiculous. Nevada, ridiculous. He won the Asian vote and tied the Hispanic vote. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually did win the Hispanic vote. He won the Hispanic vote outright in the state of Michigan. He improved dramatically among Hispanics in Pennsylvania, which Biden clobbered him with in 2020. So Bush could not lay claim to some of those achievements, let alone all of them. I think we're going to find out that he did better than the exit polls, for instance, suggest that he did. Maybe like a 53-47. Much closer, though, to a flat-out split. All right. This is by Juan David Rojas from the Liberal Patriot. You guys know that I don't care if you're right-wing. I don't care if you're Republican, Trump, or conservative, whatever you want to call yourself. The Liberal Patriot is absolutely worth reading. Two of the authors, both, I believe, write on here frequently of the emerging Democratic majority. Now, they were wrong, and that's huge because this election shows just how wrong they were. They believed demographics were destiny. That's what their thesis was. If you're a member of the book club, you know this. We went over this. We read the emerging Republican majority. We did a primer on the Democratic majority. And then we read Gavin Wax and Troy Olson's book, The Emerging Populist Majority, which really underscored the thesis that I have always laid out. Rural urban coalitions will be stronger than the coalition that is just one or the other and then puts it together with the suburbs. I have long argued that, and society is better for it, by the way. When you start to bridge that rural urban divide, the country's more unified. It's very simple. It's not hard. This is not detailed math. It's not even in-depth, advanced philosophy or something. This is very simple. When you bring the rural and the urban together, you have the suburbs smashed in the middle, the country's going to be more unified. Instead of one or the other hating each other, or both of them hating each other, fighting over the burbs every 2, 4, 6, 8 years. Ridiculous. Anyway, this is the central hub, though, for that idea. And that idea was wrong. And a big part of that idea was that they believed demographics were destiny and that Hispanics would continue and maintain their support at those levels for Democrats, while white college-educated voters would move over to the Democrats, which that has happened, right? And then you have, however, the major problem with their thesis was that they still needed to keep a certain share of the white working class. Now, what happened here? Not only did they not do that, they lost a larger share. As I told you, Canadian Kamala was not going to outperform Scranton Joe Biden. Give me a break. But she even fell short with non-white, non-credentialed or educated, which I hate. All right, let's read this. On November 5th, former President and Republican nominee Donald Trump prevailed over his Democratic opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, in a historic comeback. Folks, this is the biggest political comeback of all time. It certainly is in American history. This absolutely surpasses Grover Cleveland. Guys, they said he was an agent of Putin. They said he stole the 2016 election, which was just ludicrous. They said he was this, he was that, he's a crook, he's that, he's a convicted felon, he's a rapist, he's this, he's that. They unleashed a pandemic on the entire freaking planet just to get rid of him. This is the most impressive, the biggest comeback for anybody ever. Forget about America. I tend to think it was probably easier in antiquity for somebody who was thrown out of power to march their ass back like Napoleon. Sure, you just get loyalty in an army. We have institutions that rig and handicap the entire system against one party in particular. And this man has had the brunt of it more than anyone ever. Ever. They tried to take his businesses. They tried to lock up his kids. They tried to shoot him multiple times. Biggest comeback ever. In a historic comeback, Trump will return to the White House as one of the only two presidents to win the popular vote since 1992. You're welcome. Propelling his victory was an otherwise unlikely group of of voters. Hispanic and Latino. Come on, just say one or the other. They don't like this stuff. This writer, this particular Rojas, is obviously Hispanic. Why are they so disconnected? According to exit polls, Trump garnered around 46% of the Latino vote, including an outright majority of Latino men. For Democratic pundits, the development represents an incomprehensible turnaround for a man who began his political career by railing against illegal immigration from Mexico. Oh my God. Hello? They hate illegal immigration. In the same vein, Trump's overperformance with Latinos belies the GOP narrative of Democrats, quote, importing voters in order to win elections, unquote. That's not true. That is incorrect. They are importing voters to win elections because those voters do not undergo political maturation immediately. It takes time. And they still make a rational policy choice, a rational policy decision to vote for the party that they feel is going to make it easier on them in this country. It's the same reason other ethnic Catholics voted for Democrats when they got here too. It's a machine. It's a machine party system. They just don't have it called Tammany anymore. But there really is no difference. And that includes an entire behemoth machine with illegal immigration lawyers who make a fortune off of coyotes, and Democrats who want their lawns mowed cheap, and, Nancy Pelosi who wants, Margarita to fold her laundry for her every day and put it on the foot of the bed for her like she's like my dad when I was 4. It's a huge machine. But after a while, they undergo political maturation. So I would not say that it belies the narrative. What it does do is give you what I think is the biggest political irony ever. They did import voters to win elections, and those voters that they let in 30 years ago cost them this election. It's irony because it is true that they import an underclass to win elections. The fundamental flaw of each of these readings is the supposition that Latinos or any other individuals from various demographic groups lack agency in their political decisions. In reality, Latinos are disproportionately working class voters. According to Pew, around 79% of Hispanics lack college degrees. Unsurprisingly, it's a group that has seen itself drawn both to populist Donald Trump and his left-wing counterpart Bernie Sanders. That's a good point. At heart, Latinos are eminently populist constituency for an eminently populist movement. Unfortunately for Democrats, the party mostly relegated the material concerns of Latino voters and instead elevated mostly unpopular priorities from both its centrist and progressive wings. And sorry for sounding like an idiot, but I told locals my daughter was dancing in parades. I wanted to see them. The one on Friday, it was very cold. We went to go get something to eat afterwards, and I didn't even realize how hot one of these things came out, Play-Dohs, and I burnt badly the entire roof of my mouth. Like other working class voters, Latinos generally favor stricter policies against crime and more likely to cite public safety as an electoral concern. This is, in part, because of a greater share of Hispanics live in urban areas and are thus more exposed to crime and broader maladies of progressive governance. In a stunning rebuke of the failed experiment of California's Proposition 47, which reclassified crimes as such as shoplifters, as misdemeanors, around 70% of California Latinos supported reinstating felony charges for purportedly non-violent crimes. And by the way, did you see the Los Angeles district attorney's race? The Republican friggin' clobbered the Democrat, man. 65-35. That was because of Hispanics, not whites. It was. In fact, then Attorney General Kamala Harris, who authored Proposition 47 in 2014, and later declined to back 24's Proposition 36, which stiffened penalties for drug and other crimes. Tellingly, Democrats' advantage among California Latinos in this election declined by a very substantial 18 points relative to Biden's 2020 performance. And California has been drifting to the right for two reasons. Well, one reason I don't want to get into right now, but obviously the Hispanic shift, especially relegated to areas like the Central Valley, Fresno, Merced, Madera, Stanislaus, they have shifted much larger, but it's happening statewide. California was one of only 2 states that moved to Donald Trump, the other one being Hawaii from 2016 to 2020. By the way, we have to correct something real quick while I'm on this topic. Washington State, now that all the votes are counted, in fact did vote more to the right of their position in 24. Also, it's a very interesting majority Hispanic County. I don't think he gets into it. I was reading it somewhere else. But give me a second. We'll talk about that. By far, the most resounding issue where Democrats facilitated their own demise with Latinos and the broader public was on immigration. In 2020, the share of voters that favored increased immigration rose to a 50-year high of 34%, in large part as a backlash to Trump's immigration policies. And by the way, look, they're citing Gallup. Lydia Syed from Gallup for many, many years has tried to say, in fact, not only Hispanics, but all Americans favor reduced legal immigration. Legal. Hold on. In a severe overcorrection. The Biden administration more or less decriminalized border crossings in 21 through an overly generous asylum regime. The Congressional Budget Office now estimates that more than 10 million foreign nationals without legal permanent status entered the United States during Biden's term. Come on, we know it's higher, don't we? Consequently, the number of Americans that now favor decreased immigration has also risen to a record high of 55%. Here, it's important to note that opposition toward illegal immigration has been comparatively stable and even more resounding, including among Latinos. One poll found that 65% of Latinos backed stopping illegal immigration entirely. Mired with the sheer unpopularity of his policies, Biden issued an executive order in June barring migrants from soliciting asylum after daily border encounters exceed 2,500. In practical terms, the move was a resounding success, with monthly crossings falling by around 80% since December of 23, in conjunction with an increased enforcement by Mexican authorities. And that was the beauty of Trump's immigration policy and why, I mean, the wall going up, and it was going up. You could see it on an interactive map on Customs and Border Patrol's website, which is always astounding to me that people don't cite. I mean, it was right there. Like, the hell are people talking about? The wall, of course, certainly helps. But it was the cooperation that Trump forced Mexico and other Latin American countries, and south of the border countries to give. All right. What else? I mean, how much we have to do here? Okay, here we go. The final nail in the Democratic coffin came from the parties. And did we? Yeah. Came from the party's resolute inability to champion progressive causes that garner actual votes. At a time when the federal minimum wage has lost close to half its value due to inflation, the party ceded to its corporate wing. The party is its corporate wing now. Even the so-called progressives are just fanatics, but they don't actually... They're full of it. There's no true believers anymore. Anyway, they ceded to its corporate ring, which favors curtailing inflation through lower wages. According to Pew, 79% of Latinos favored increasing the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. It's a logical finding, considering that large shares of Hispanics earn or at or close to the minimum wage. And here's what's beautiful about this. Trump didn't do this by appealing to them, offering stupid policy. That is a stupid policy. The federal minimum wage is a dumb policy. There is so much research on that. This really should not be up for debate. Minimum wages cost jobs. They destroy industries. They destroy jobs altogether. The McDonald's example is a perfect example. Going to be a kiosk where there used to be a person. Instead, Trump, when what sounded
populist, but in fact was rather conservative or rather constitutionalist. No tax on tips. No tax on tips. Populist, but also very original design like. Many of you may not even know, and there's no shame in not, that this is a relatively recent power given to the federal government. This is barely over 100 years old. They were not allowed to take your earnings like that. Direct taxation was unconstitutional. Had to go through the states. Get the money from the states. States generate revenue. States generate tax. They kick up to the federal government. A progressive income tax was part of the log rolling deal with the 17th Amendment. It was the 16th, 17th Amendment. Log rolling deal. It's actually rather conservative to say no tax on tips. Let's go back to the way it was. That's not their money. I'm not going to promise you a higher wage because that's a false promise. But I can promise that they won't tax your tips. You get to keep more. I would argue that most people who work in that industry would prefer no tax on tips over the promise of a minimum wage. Because many of them are going to lose their jobs. That's number one. A $15 federal minimum wage is Dunsky. Dunsky. They should talking about what's the sector? Leisure and hospitality. Think of Nevada, guys. Think how Trump did what he did in Nevada. He did it mostly by doing much better in Clark County. Much better. That's the play here. If I was a culinary person in Clark County, there's no doubt that I will take no tax on tips before the promise of a federal minimum wage. That has destructive consequences, whereas I could just do my thing, get what tips I get, and I don't have to worry about reporting it right or at all to Uncle Sam. This is mine. And I know I can do X number a night if I do this. I know I can really put up the numbers on a Friday or a Saturday, and this is definitely the way to go. I don't know how much I want to read outside of things like energy. They did care about energy quite a bit. They had no record. The Biden-Harris agenda had no good record on energy. They went the radical left wing. He says they ceded to corporate and didn't champion the progressive values. That is a progressive value right there that actually totally overlaid, aligned with the corporate wing of the party. And corporate wing relies on subsidies from the government to give them money for technology that doesn't exist. They couch it in terms of progressive values. They care about the planet, care about the environment. No, you don't. When was the last time you went bass fishing? Don't talk to me about the environment. You don't even know what the difference between climate change and the environment is. They're two totally separate issues. But it sounded like they cared about the progressive cause, but that isn't popular. So that's what I'm saying. There's some limits to what he's saying here, because this is a great example. Neither on immigration nor on energy, and apparently there's a better way to do it on taxation. So I'm not really sure. They like the populist tone, but the policy itself is decisively in favor of like right-wing populism policy when it comes to voter preference among Hispanics for these policies. And that's what it's all about, because you want a voter to make a rational policy choice toward you and toward your agenda. You want them to support you as opposed to just dislike somebody else. And you want to keep them because ultimately you want to keep them. So you need to convince them that actually you belong here because this is our agenda. That's our opponent's agenda. Nothing here. It doesn't matter if they take the left-wing lane or the corporatist lane, which again they can intersect at times. Energy is a perfect example. It doesn't matter because pitted up against that, they prefer your policy anyway. That's the route you want to go. That's what happened here. And I don't think it's like harping on it over and over to discuss this, the significance of this, when you go back and you listen to how some of these media people discuss this stuff. They truly believed that Hispanic voters were offended by anyone who wanted to enforce the borders and the border security laws. That's what they believed. They thought they could use some fake story about or fake outrage over a comedian who told an off-color joke that fell flat at a rally, that they were going to put all those rational policy choices aside because CNN, MSNBC, and every crap newspaper that pretends they're the only credible source of information out there running 24/7 with Trump. You know, Trump's friend said Puerto Rico's an island of garbage. Like, come on. That's honestly kind of racist, isn't it? You think they're slow or something? Do you think there's something about their race that makes them stupid? They don't make rational policy choices? You're going to use a scam like the Puerto Rico scam. You're going to use that to convince. I mean, of course, you'll get a few people who say, yeah, I don't really like that. But are you racist enough to think you're going to pull large swaths of the electorate, the Hispanic electorate, away from Donald Trump after they believed he was better at all these things, that he made their lives better? They're slow? Maybe it's because they're 70% non-college educated. Is that what you think? Tell you what, I know a lot of Hispanics with no college degree who are a lot smarter than Caitlin Collins. But that's what they do believe. Let's get real. It is. Podesta's emails, really illuminating. So needy. So needy people. They're a needy people. So again, very interesting. And just close it out with saying, Joe Rogan, he also appreciated Trump's willingness to sit down, and this is a Biden voter who is Costa Rican, explained to me how he disliked Trump but felt the economy was better during his presidency. He also appreciated Trump's willingness to sit down with podcasters such as Joe Rogan and described Kamala Harris as an elitist for not doing the same. James, take a lap, Raging Cajun. Take a lap. Still, another Mexican-American voter I spoke with resented the Democratic Party's unwillingness to hold competitive primaries, and, like in the media narrative, to Trump's authoritarianism with that of Mexico's Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, the AMLO. It's BS. At minimum, Trump's overperformance in relation to other Republicans speaks to his strength as a populist, a quality he shares with many of his peers in America, such as the friendly AMLO. And by the way, for those who don't know who Luis Obrador is, I don't think I do. This is what he said when and it became clear. Everyone had known. Everyone started. Charges didn't drop yet, but everybody knew they were going to charge Trump. Let's take a little bit of a flashback to remind you who he is.
Está declarando el presidente Trump. President Trump has declared. Expresidente Trump. Que lo van a detener. Ex-President Trump has declared that he will be arrested. Creo que hoy. I believe today. Por un asunto. Because of an issue. Supuestamente. Como dicen supposedly. Presuntamente. Or as lawyers would say, allegedly. Sí, amoroso. Things of love. Que lo van a detener. They want to arrest him. Si fuese así, if that is the case, pues todo mundo sabría. Then the whole world would know. Porque no nos estamos chupando el dedo. Because we're not sucking on our thumbs over here. Que es para que no aparezca en la boleta. That the real reason they want to arrest him is to remove him from the ballot. Y si digo esto es porque yo padecí. de la fabricación de un delito.
And I say this because I too was a victim of a fabricated crime because they didn't want me to be the candidate.
Y eso es completamente antidemocrático.
And that is completely anti-democratic.
¿Por qué no se le permite al pueblo que sea el que decida?
Because they're not allowing the people to be the ones who decide.
Been there, done that. Sound familiar? This is something Donna Brazil, I responded to her on X because it doesn't seem like they get this. Like, Hispanics didn't believe that stuff. They didn't believe any of that. This guy actually cited Luis Salvador. It's really remarkable. The media propaganda machine was thoroughly and completely rejected here. And I can't imagine why. Going back to the first segment, here's Politico. Look at this. President says he won't pardon Biden. Biden issues pardon for son. Republicans pounce on Biden for pardoning son. You can't make this stuff up. And they were just supposed to ignore all that. Especially to oppose a guy who, just as the other voter said, made their lives better. And he didn't do it by pandering, which is what the 2012 autopsy Republicans commissioned millions of dollars for something that like anybody with common sense could have told them. Except with drawing the wrong conclusion, the how-to. As Dr. Steve Turley and I said when we were conducting our interview on his show, Trump got where they said they wanted to go. They always wanted to go. He just didn't do it their way. He did it the way that was actually more in line with their so-called values that they support. Whereas they planned on just acting like Democrats. And here we are. Incredible. Incredible. Look, let's do this real quick one last time. Everyone by now should know how much I love Farmer Bill's provisions and how much I'm in love with biltong, which I'm going to send to my father, who is a jerky lover himself. And I told him, don't you dare. Keto friendly, sugar free, gluten free, no nitrates, paleo friendly, Whole30 friendly, no soy, and rich in protein. Look, if you want to support America's beef and cattle industry, then this is the way to do it. And while you enjoy a delicious snack, it's farmerbillsprovisions.com. Go check it out. I had no idea how much China and like BlackRock were meddling in our markets. I did know a little bit about the 30 and 30 plan, which was really, it's a plan to screw over America's cattle country. And that's what they want to do. But they have it in beef. They have it in bison. They have it spicy. They have it regular. It is absolutely delicious. So delicious. I even used it in my antipasta this year for Thanksgiving. If you look, maybe you're not even a jerky fan, you'll still like it. But I absolutely love it, and I don't want to touch jerky ever again. I sit with at least 3 bags by my desk all day long, and I have some. Probably not. Shouldn't do that, but I have some every day. I love it. Go to Farmer Bill's Provisions. Use the promo code that's down below in the description, which is TPP for the People's Pundit, and get yourself a little bit of a discount at checkout. Again, Farmer Bill's Provisions, South Dakota, God's country, absolutely beautiful out there, and just a delicious, delicious product. Viva Fry is not joking. All right. What time is it? 3:08. All right, let me take a real quick break, and then when we come back, I just want to go over one last thing. But we'll take a break listening to these idiots.
What? Yeah. Again, it's all about the contrast.
President Biden saying, I will respect whatever this jury decides, versus right. Donald Trump after he was convicted on 34 counts, saying the entire system is rigged against him.
Their latest attack has been that Joe Biden has politicized and weaponized the DOJ, right? That was the whole argument around Donald Trump's conviction. And this week, of course, Hunter Biden was found guilty. And Joe Biden has very clearly said he would not pardon his son. He would not commute his sentence. How stark is this difference? I mean, how can Republicans keep making this argument now that Joe Biden has really put it out there? Where's Hunter? And he stood there in a courtroom, flanked by his family, and he's accepted his sentence.
He is not pardoning his son, which he could do. These are federal charges. Right. He is not doing that. He is not doing it because he is living what it means to have a rule of law in this country. And then I mean, if you want to know if he believes it, you could actually see what is happening with his
being lectured about the rule of law by one of only a handful of prosecutors who was unanimously rebuked by the Supreme Court for prosecutorial misconduct. He destroyed thousands of lives with Arthur Anderson. Unbelievable.
Son.
The president, Anderson, has been really clear that he is going to accept the outcome of the trial no matter what happens.
So Joe Biden's gotten asked about, talking about law and order. He's gotten asked if he would pardon his son. He has said no. On the other side, you've got Donald Trump, who has said that he will pardon the January 6th insurrectionists. Yeah. They're not even his sons. They're just sons of bitches.
Washington said, I am not running again because he understood the self-restraint was absolutely essential to this country so you don't have a king. He did not pardon his son. He did not order the Department of Justice to say, don't prosecute my son. So impressive.
Could have ordered the Justice Department to halt the prosecution of Hunter Biden, according to this court. Everyone understands he's a decent man.
I think Joe Biden has a chance here to stand up for the rule of law, to say the law is the law, no matter who it is, no matter if it's Trump or Biden. And remember, part of Trumpism's dangerousness is that it tears down institutions, important institutions of our democracy. So there's an opportunity here for Biden to say, the jury found him guilty. This is how it's supposed to work. Period, paragraph.
Blech. Period, paragraph, right, Laura? Period, paragraph. Blech. Should be some exciting news coming up this week, by the way. But tomorrow, don't forget to watch me on Mark Robert and Eric Hundley as we discuss my little victory lap, which is really cool. And there will be more of that this week to come. All right. I want to bring up, speaking of polling, there's the Christmas poll. It's up. It's good. You like our little graphic, isn't it? Adorbs. Wait till you see the one for the actual poll itself when it's released. We may update it a little bit. This was the one from last year. All right. And if you want to know what's in the Christmas poll, maybe you've never heard of it. We ask, what was so fascinating. Can we take a second here? I know it's almost time, and I have to go get my kid from the bus stop here. But the Christmas poll 2023, more than 9 in 10 U.S. voters celebrated Christmas, which blew me away. There were tons of Muslims and Jews and people who did not describe themselves as very religious who still celebrated the holiday, and not equal, but very impressive. A very impressive percentage of people who celebrate it and reflect on the holiday as the birth of the Christ. So what was interesting about the Christmas poll was the conclusion, I guess is what you can say, that Americans weren't necessarily losing God. The church was losing Americans. Churches were losing Americans. So many people who describe themselves as having no religious affiliation, the nuns everyone was so scared of, so many of them still celebrate Christmas. And they're not doing it out of a Santa suit. They put up religious icons. They put up nativity sets. They attend services only on Christmas, even though they have no religious affiliation. Truly remarkable. Not, again, to varying degrees and different percentages, but truly, truly remarkable. So I can't wait to do this one. And I got some really cool ideas for it. We also, again, have to kind of front load this and get this going. We need a transition poll, inauguration poll. I was going to do that this weekend and just keep it totally separate. But nobody was paying attention this weekend. For another project we were doing, trying to get some post-election feedback for a project we're working on, which really, it was you're calling a lot of different people, but it certainly was targeted to people who have a lower turnout probability, in their voting history. If you can smell what I'm cooking here. But it was just a problem to reach a lot of people. They were out shopping. They were out taking a breather, especially the right, because they're like, oof, okay, we won. I want to enjoy myself a little bit. Some on the left were like, I don't want to talk to anybody about politics because we lost. It was just, I want to do Thanksgiving and I want to not be bothered. So it was not the right time, in my opinion, to start such a massive project. And just talking from experience here. But, you know, it's Monday. We'll work on it throughout this week. Maybe we'll start it a little bit earlier because it is going to be a little bit larger study than normally I like running, and we'll do it. So the project's up. If you want to support it, share it far and wide. As always, that would be great. It's 3:15. I'm going to boogie woogie here. We'll see when we get Barnes back on what are the odds for Mondays. We always do the Christmas poll together, right? And go over it together. So we'll hopefully we'll be able to do that. All right. So for now, Tuesday, of course, we're going to go on Unstructured. Can't wait to talk to those guys. Great show. Great, entertaining guys if you haven't been on them yet. And then on Wednesday, we'll have Inside the Numbers at the normal time, which is noon Eastern Standard Time. Noon Eastern Standard Time. All right. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and share them far and wide. If you're on YouTube, mosey on over to Rumble. If you're on Rumble, mosey on over to YouTube. But the best place, of course, to follow is right there below. peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. And for those who participate in the book club or want to this time, this is the new book. And let me get this out of the way. This is the new book, Nations and Identities. I should have had it mirrored so you could read it, but that's what it's called, Nations and Identities. It is edited by Vincent Pecora. All right. And it's going to be a great primer. We're probably going to wind up reading the vast majority of it, but if you want to know whether or not you have the right book, all right, there is an introduction, there's an acknowledgement, yada, yada. It's broken down into different parts. All right. Part 1 is called Inventing the Modern State. And it has seminal work of like Thomas Hobbes, Leviathan, right? And then, of course, the 2 treatises on government, John Locke. We don't have to go over all that stuff. But when did we start discussing what a nation is and what classifies a nation? How do we define it? How do we characterize it? I think it's super important after the election we just had. Okay. And then once we get that under our belt, then we'll get into Benedict Anderson, which is much heavier, much heavier. Imagine Communities is very wonky. It is imagery that is not totally easy to grasp unless you have a deeper understanding of this stuff and how, again, academics talk about it. All right. So Nations and Identities. I will throw that up on Locals. All right, guys. Nothing but love for you. Thanks for watching as always. And we will see you on, well, we'll see you before then. You better watch the shows I'm on. But we'll see you on Inside the Numbers on Wednesday. I hope you all had a fantastic Thanksgiving. We did. We had a great weekend in general. But I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. And I'm looking forward to the holiday season. I'm going to get holly jolly real soon. I brought some stuff out of the storage unit already, which, I mean, some is not some. Swag's up already. Or at least most of it. I think I got 4 more pieces. That's not that compared. The outdoor wreaths. I got to get the boom to put the lights on the house. The large dining room wreath is up. The tree is, of course, the masterpiece of the house, which is Laura. And that has to start getting done. I hope you all take time to enjoy it too, whether your side won or you lost. All right. Life is short. It is brief. It's a gift. And we have to enjoy it while we can. All right. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers, folks. I will see you on Wednesday. Laura says, deuces.